Hey guys, tonight's story starts with the faint sound of boots scraping against cobblestone, a fog that moves like it's looking for someone, and the feeling that the air itself knows more than you do. You're standing on the edge of a London alley that doesn't appear on any map. Something just shuffled past you, on all fours. And now a child in rags is staring at you like you're the ghost. The lamplight flickers. The city mutters. And the truth is, you were never meant to see this part of London. But before you get too cozy, take a second to gently tap that new hype button YouTube just added. It really does help little guys like me push through the algorithm. And be sure to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy this strange little corner of quiet storytelling. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's strangely comforting to know who else is drifting off with us around the world. Now, get comfortable, let the day melt away, and we'll drift back together into the quiet corners of the past. You wake up face down in a puddle that smells like boot polish and betrayal. Your face is cold, your mouth tastes like chimney dust, and your cheek is pressed to a cobblestone with the comforting give of old bone. Someone steps over you without looking down. You are, apparently, not interesting enough to notice. Welcome to Victorian London. You sit up too quickly and immediately regret it, though you won't say the word out loud. That gives it power. Your head spins like it's reconsidering its lease. A cart rolls by, and a rat hitches a ride on the back axle like it owns shares in the street. The fog is not so much hanging in the air as it is clinging to everything. Chimneys, boots, your eyelashes. It moves like it knows you, which is concerning because you don't even know you. There's no memory, just the feeling that your knees hurt in a way that suggests you've been praying or crawling or both. Your clothes are damp, scratchy, and look like they were tailored by someone with strong opinions about discomfort. Your shoes are mismatched, but at least they're both left feet. That seems easier somehow. A boy with one tooth and no evident supervision throws a crust of bread at a pigeon and misses. The pigeon does not care. The bread hits you instead. He stares for a moment, as if trying to determine if you're a person or just unusually shaped garbage. Then he moves on. You're not offended. You're not entirely sure he was wrong. The street groans beneath a line of workers trudging toward a smokestack, belching what might be industry, or maybe just grief, in particulate form. Their faces are streaked with soot, their eyes with something heavier. A man coughs so hard, his hat falls off. He doesn't pick it up. A dog sniffs it, sneezes, and keeps walking. You begin to suspect this city is running on fumes and mutual avoidance. A woman shouts from a second-story window, yelling something about pigs and trousers. It's unclear whether those are two separate issues or one truly spectacular scandal. Below her, a child with a wooden spoon is chasing another child with no spoon and much fear. There is laughter. It might be malicious. It might be joy. Here, they seem interchangeable. You stand, or try to. Your left leg does something treasonous. You grab a lamppost that flickers like it's deciding whether or not to commit to being useful. You steady yourself. You look around. There is no sign, no clock, no comforting smell of coffee or soap or anything that suggests civilization in the optimistic sense of the word. Just chimneys, shouts, fog, and a general hum of survival. You shuffle forward, because backwards seems rude. The fog parts just enough to reveal a narrow alley, lined with bricks that glisten like they've been licked. By what, you cannot say. A man sits at the end, on a crate, with a pipe that is mostly teeth and no fire. He watches you like he knows the ending and is just waiting to see if you'll catch up. You wave. He spits. A cart nearly runs you over, its driver yelling something about bloody dreamers, and you lurch sideways into a stack of barrels that are definitely not empty and possibly sentient. Something oozes. You do not ask what. That feels like a boundary. On your third attempt to walk like a person and not a marionette with stage fright, you pass a wall scrawled with chalk. No gods, no bosses, no soap. You're not sure which of those you miss most. You feel watched, not in the grand philosophical sense, but in the very practical, someone is definitely behind you. Way, you turn. A small girl in a dress made from curtains stares up at you. She has no shoes and the eyes of someone who's memorized the weaknesses of every adult she's ever met. You're new, she says, not as a question but as a diagnosis. You nod. It feels true. Don't stand still too long, she adds. Things grow on you. Then she walks away, whistling something that sounds suspiciously like the funeral march played on a broken recorder. You walk, not toward anything, just away from everything. The sky isn't visible, but you're convinced it's frowning. Somewhere in the distance, something explodes. No one reacts. You've officially entered a city where surprise is an amateur's mistake. Your stomach growls with the deep, theatrical flair of someone auditioning for pity. A street vendor sells what he claims are pies, but they look more like baked arguments. You keep walking. You don't remember being vegetarian, but your instincts are staging a protest. A street sign hangs upside down. A child picks your pocket, finds nothing, and looks offended. A woman in a bonnet with murder in her eyes pushes past you, muttering about soup and sin. You reach the edge of the fog, or what you hope is the edge. It doesn't thin. Exactly. It just hesitates. There, sitting on the curb, legs stretched into the gutter like royalty in exile, is a boy holding a tin can and smiling like he's won something. Fancy a crawl? He asks. You don't know what that means. But your knees do. He says his name is Snipe, like it's a title he won in a knife fight with a bird. He's got a mouthful of teeth that seem to have made individual exit strategies, and his boots are more whole than leather. The bucket in his hand smells like something that used to be soup and gave up halfway. He squints at you through one eye, the other covered by a patch that might be for fashion, injury, or hiding a smaller, angrier eye. You got bones? He asks, and you pause, uncertain whether this is Victorian slang or a threat. You check your pockets. Lint, a button, a crumb that might once have been part of bread or an especially determined beetle. You shake your head. He grins, revealing a collection of molars that clearly didn't come from the same original owner. Not them bones, he says. The clinky kind. Coin bones. Street bones. He taps his own chest. The sort that makes soup less imaginary. You apologize for your lack of bone wealth. He shrugs like it's expected of you and hands you a tin can with a dent the size of yesterday's mistake. You look pitiful, he says cheerfully. That's currency. The can is warm, sticky, and smells faintly of onions and despair. You turn it over in your hands, trying to find the side less likely to cause tetanus. Snipe is already moving, his bucket swinging like it has opinions. You follow. The street is more puddle than path, and the puddles are more soup than water. You step over something that might be a hat or a very quiet rat. Snipe whistles tunelessly as he walks, occasionally stopping to shout something like, "Oi," or "Put that goat down." Without further explanation, he settles by a lamppost that leans slightly to the left, like it's given up standing straight for a city that doesn't notice. He plants the bucket with a loud clunk and plops down beside it. You sit too, trying to mirror his posture, which involves one leg bent, one stretched, and a general air of defeat worn like a scarf. "Right," he says, pointing at the street. "Now, look sad. You try your best." He stares at you, unimpressed. No, that's garden variety glum. I need tragic orphan. Think droopy. Think Dickens after someone kicked his puppy. You attempt a face that says you've never known joy and once watched your last crust of bread float down a sewer grate. He nods, satisfied. Much better. Now shake the can, gently, like it's got dignity. You shake it. It makes a sound like embarrassment in metal form. No one looks at you. A woman with a cabbage under one arm and judgment under the other glares in your general direction. Snipe grins at her like he's just proposed marriage. She walks faster. An old man shuffles by. You jingle the can. He spits near your shoe and mumbles something about youth these days, which is inaccurate on several levels. Snipe nudges your elbow. That's good, he says. If they're angry, they noticed you. That's step one. You watch him work. He doesn't beg. He performs. 1 minute he's limping like his leg's about to fall off. The next he's breakdancing with his eyebrows. He tells a story about a whale that lived in the Thames and taught him to read. A child gives him half a roll. A woman tosses a coin and doesn't even stop walking. He pockets both with the grace of a man who knows miracles come crust first. You ask him how long he's been doing this. Since the womb, he says. Mum charged midwives a viewing fee. Told him I was glowing. Might have been jaundice. You can't tell if he's lying or if his entire life is just one long creative detour. He hands you the coin from the woman. Says it's a loan. Says you'll pay him back when you're famous. Says if not, he'll haunt you from the gutter with limericks and threats. The sun peeks through the fog like it's reconsidering. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks with conviction. A cartwheel snaps. A child yells something about trousers. The city churns on. Keep your chin down, Snipe says, squinting at you. You're too clean around the eyes. No one trusts clean eyes. You smear something on your face. You don't ask what it is. He smiles approvingly. Now you look like you belong, he says, and that settles in your chest like a compliment or a diagnosis. He stands, stretches, and tosses the bucket over his shoulder. If you're lucky, he says, you'll make a shilling by supper. And if I'm not? He winks. Then we talk about crawling. London's East End doesn't welcome. It tolerates. It lets you in the way a cold bed does without warmth, but with just enough space to lie down and think about your decisions. The fog here doesn't roll. It coils, thick and strange, like a wet wool scarf that someone's been crying into for years. It clings to your sleeves, your eyelashes, and eventually your lungs, until breathing starts to feel like borrowing something that needs to be returned. The buildings lean in too close, like they're sharing a secret about you that you haven't heard yet. Windows blink with condensation and something worse. Chimneys cough. The bricks sweat. Somewhere nearby, a door slams without warning or reason, followed by a muffled shout and something that might be a pan or a person hitting the ground. No one runs to check. Noise here is a language, and most people choose not to be fluent. You turn down an alley that feels narrower than it should. The walls weep. There's moss growing in places moss shouldn't know about. The cobbles squelch like they resent being stepped on, and something skitters across your path so quickly your brain has to file it under "to be identified." Later, you hope it's a rat. It is not. It's wearing a button. Rats don't wear buttons. There's a boy hunched near a drain, drawing shapes in the soot with a finger that looks like it's seen better lifetimes. He doesn't look up when you pass, but you're aware of his eyes. Kids here don't stare out of curiosity. They stare like they're clocking odds. Whether you're a threat, whether you're food, whether you'll notice if your shoes are missing in the morning, you step over a sleeping figure, curled like punctuation between two crates. Could be a man, could be laundry with opinions. Either way, you don't disturb him. He might be dead, or napping, or both. You're beginning to understand those aren't mutually exclusive here. The fog thickens around your knees. You can't tell if the street is sloping downward or if you're slouching. You pass a butcher's shop with no sign, just a hook in the window and a faint smell of boiled questions. A woman steps out, apron stiff with something that used to be edible, and tosses a bone into the street. 3 dogs appear, silent and fast, fighting over it like it holds the answer to a riddle no one asked. One of them makes eye contact with you. It has one ear and half a conscience. You look away first. A man in a hat, too fine for this part of town, emerges from the fog like an accusation. He walks like he knows where he's going. He also walks around puddles, which means he doesn't belong here. Everyone else walks through them. He disappears before you can decide whether to follow or fear him. There's a sound. Wet. Close. The kind that makes your shoulder blades tighten on instinct. You turn your head slowly. Too slowly. A shape disappears behind a stack of crates. Human height. Not walking. Dragging. You don't call out. That's not how things work here. If you name it, you invite it. You just keep walking. A little faster. Not running because that would make a noise. And noise is currency you can't afford. Someone whistles a tune just behind the wall to your right. The notes are wrong. Too slow, like the song is drunk or mourning. You don't know the words, but your skin does. It starts itching, like it's trying to leave without you. The fog parts just enough to reveal a lamp that isn't lit, hanging from a crooked post like a tired thought. Beneath it, a girl sits on a step, plucking feathers from a pillow that doesn't look like it came from her home. Her hands are too steady for comfort. She hums the same song you heard behind the wall, and when you pass, she stops, mid-note, and whispers, "He's watching again," then goes back to plucking. You don't ask who. You already know. The fog. It's not natural here. It doesn't rise from the river. It doesn't fall from the sky. It lives. It waits. It wraps around ankles, seeps into ear canals, whispers in voices that don't belong to mouths. You try to turn left and find the street you came from. No longer exists. Or maybe it does, but not for you. That happens sometimes. Directions are polite suggestions in this part of town. The alley you do find leads you between two buildings that smell like vinegar and broken promises. A window opens above you and tips out something warm and awful. You dodge, barely. It steams beside your foot. You hear it again. The dragging. Closer now. But when you spin around, the alley's empty. Not even fog there. Just stillness. Like the city is holding its breath. A door creaks open behind you. A hand appears, wrinkled and stained with something that probably once had a name. An old woman peers out, one eye too big, the other not big enough. "You walkin'?" she asks. You nod. She snorts. "Then you ain't seen it yet." Then she slams the door, and the fog returns like it's exhaling. You meet her near the tannery, though to say you meet her is generous. It's more accurate to say she appears, mid-conversation, like you're the one who interrupted. One moment you're wondering whether the smell is coming from the tannery or your own coat, and the next, she's there, perched on a stack of crates like a gremlin with posture. They call her Duchess. No one can say why. Possibly irony, possibly fear, or possibly because she once bit a man for calling her ma'am. She wears a curtain like a shawl, a curtain that's seen things and doesn't want to talk about them. Her feet are bare and blackened, though whether from grime, frostbite, or sheer defiance, you can't tell. She eyes you with the squint of someone who's survived things that would kill God. "New," she says, like an insult. You smell like questions. You open your mouth to respond, and she spits a coin at your foot. It makes a dull sound, like a cough that didn't finish. You stare at it. It's real. Bent, yes. Coated in something best not identified, absolutely, but real. "Don't thank me," she says. "It's cursed, but you'll spend it anyway." All of us do. You're not sure if she means money or something less spendable, like innocence or toenails. She snorts, reaches into her coat, no pockets, just folds and produces another coin, which she flips between her fingers with the skill of a magician or a pickpocket priest. "They say the city's got two stomachs," she continues, "one for the ones that walk and one for the ones that crawl. Guess which one digests slower. You guess, silently. She nods, not because you're right, but because she's going to say her piece regardless. You're in the second stomach now. Welcome. It's damp. It gurgles, and it doesn't let go. A man nearby sneezes into a rag and keeps walking. The fog is thick, but around the tannery it's more of a paste. The air stings like it's disappointed in you. You try not to breathe too deeply. Duchess lights a pipe with something that smells like burnt hair and optimism gone sour. You want to survive, she says, not asking. You learn 3 things. Don't drink puddle water unless you saw where it came from. Don't trust anyone with both eyebrows. And never, ever take the shortcut behind the fishmonger's cart after midnight. Not because of the fishmonger, because of what isn't the fishmonger. You blink. She spits another coin. You try asking her name, her real one. She ignores you with the kind of practiced grace that suggests she once ignored royalty. A cat wanders by, stops at her feet, and drops a dead mouse like an offering. She thanks it and tucks the mouse into her coat. You don't ask. Someone yells in the distance. Could be anger, could be joy. In this part of London, the difference is mostly in vowel length. Duchess doesn't flinch. She starts humming a tune that reminds you of something you've never liked but can't forget, like a dentist's waiting room or your uncle's second wedding. She looks at you suddenly, sharply. You still got your walk? You nod, unsure. She leans forward, pipe clenched between teeth, smoke curling like lazy ghosts. Keep it while you can. Sooner or later, the crawl comes for us all. It's not a punishment. It's a promotion. You try to laugh. She doesn't. Come find me again, she says, when your knees stop arguing, when your eyes start seeing what's under the cobblestones, not just what's on top. She hops down from the crates with the ease of someone much younger or much madder, probably both. She disappears between 2 walls, a sliver of human vanishing into brick. You're left with the coin, the smell of rotting hides, and a vague sense that something in you has shifted just slightly to the left. The coin is warm. You pocket it. You tell yourself it's because you might need it. But it feels more like something's keeping score. He invites you to dinner with the formality of a king and the teeth of a grave. One hand drags behind him like it doesn't remember being attached, and the other gestures grandly toward a corner of brick that might, with generous imagination, be called a home. You hesitate, partly because your stomach is making noises last heard during the Blitz, and partly because the last time someone smiled at you like that, you lost a button, 3 hours, and a portion of your dignity. But hunger is louder than fear. You follow. His space is tucked behind a leaning stack of crates and beneath an awning that sags like it's given up. There's a sheet nailed over the entrance, thin enough to show every movement of the rats on the other side. Inside, it's warm, though the warmth smells suspiciously like mildew and boiled things. He has a fire. Technically, it's more of a smoldering suggestion in a can, but it glows and makes the shadows twitch. He scoops soup, if you can call it that, from a tin pot that looks like it's been retired twice and brought back in an act of vengeance. The contents are gray, viscous, and have the unsettling habit of shifting when still. He offers you a tin cup. You take it. He grins like he's just handed you treasure. It tastes like warmth and wrongness, like something that once tried to be food but got distracted halfway through. There's a chew to it. Something wriggles. You chew anyway. Hunger doesn't care about standards. It barely cares about species. The crawling man watches you eat, like he's proud of you. His eyes are clouded but sharp, like marbles covered in soot. He sits back, his legs folded beneath him in ways legs shouldn't fold. His arms are long, longer than memory, and his fingers tap the ground like they're playing out a tune only the stone understands. You're new, he says, because everyone says that, but from him it sounds like a diagnosis. You nod. He nods back, satisfied. You'll get used to it. The smell, the ache, the fog in your joints. You ask him about the crawlers. He doesn't answer at first. Just sips from his own cup and makes a face that could be pleasure or old pain. Finally, he speaks, voice low and smooth like oiled rope. People think crawling's the end, the fall. But that's just because they ain't got low enough to see the ground properly. Standing tall don't mean you're high. It just means you've got further to fall. He smiles. You don't. He leans closer. We wasn't always crawlers. Some of us used to dance, used to work. One was a vicar. One played violin for the Queen, or so he says. But the city, it don't ask. It takes. It lowers you inch by inch. Till one day, your knees stop lifting, and you realize the ground's been kinder than your feet ever were. You ask if he misses standing. He laughs. A sound that bounces off the bricks and makes the fire flicker. Why would I? I've got a roof. Of sorts. Company. Stories. You ain't heard a real tale till it's told by someone with their face to the stone. He points at your hands. Yours are still clean. That'll change. You look down. They don't feel clean. He tells you about the tunnels, the ones below, even the sewers, where the crawlers go when they've stopped pretending the upper streets are home, where names are left behind and only sounds matter. He talks about a girl who learned to speak in clicks, a man who carved poems into his spine, a boy who disappeared so completely even the city forgot him. You sip the soup and say nothing. It's easier that way. He talks until the fire dies, until the rats stop scurrying, until the fog seeps in like it's listening. Then he leans back, sighs, and closes his eyes. You stay a while longer, the cup still warm in your hands. You think about standing, but you don't. Not right away. It starts with the rattling, soft at first, like a rat dragging a thimble, or bones playing dice under a wool blanket. The kind of sound you ignore on account of everything else. Already making noise, snoring, orphans, coughing that sounds too wet to be, casual, and the nightly creak of wood under things that shouldn't be walking anymore. But the rattling keeps going, and it keeps getting closer. The others whisper about it like it's weather. Cold tonight. Soup was thin. The floor's rattling again. No one seems surprised. No one seems curious. You, for reasons unclear even to yourself, are both. You tell them you'll go check. They stare like you've announced you're marrying a shadow. Someone offers you a candle with more wax than flame. Another girl crosses herself, then remembers she doesn't believe in anything anymore and pretends she was just scratching her chest. The workhouse floor is a patchwork of sorrow and splinters. Everything creaks, but not in that friendly, old house sort of way. More like the building is actively reconsidering its contract with gravity. You press your ear to the boards near the back corner of the dormitory, where the light doesn't quite reach and the dust moves like it's alive. There it is again. Not just rattling now, but skittering. Something big, something not trying very hard to stay hidden. It moves like it owns the place, like it's checking on you. You find the trapdoor by accident, or maybe it finds you. There's no handle, just a square of floor that sounds wrong when you knock on it. Hollow, offended. You pry it open with a fork you borrowed from dinner and never returned. Below is darkness. Not just absence of light darkness, but don't look too long darkness. The kind that gives off suggestions instead of shadows. You go down anyway. The ladder is rotted and slippery, and it smells like the inside of a forgotten mouth. You drop the candle. It goes out on impact, which feels personal. The last rung gives way, and you fall, knees first, into a puddle that clings with enthusiasm. You stand, eventually, and realize your shoes are not standing with you. They've made other plans. The cellar stretches farther than the building should allow. You walk, by feel and guesswork, hands on the walls, which are wet and pulsing slightly. That's probably fine. You tell yourself it's probably fine. The rattling returns, louder now, not behind, below. There's something under this floor too. You crouch and listen, and there's a voice, no, several whispering nonsense syllables that sound suspiciously like your name rearranged. You take a step back, and the floor gives a little sigh, like it's disappointed. Then something breathes, not air, space. The air around you bends, heavy and still, and the stone beneath your feet hums like it's remembering a song. You see something move in the dark, no shape, just motion, a drag, a shift, a rattling that's not metal, not quite. You run, or something like it. Your legs work, but the direction feels optional. The cellar seems longer than it did, or wider, possibly both. You're not sure if you're going in circles or if the room is. The door, if it was ever real, isn't where you left it. Something laughs. It's high and dry, like paper folding wrong. It echoes without a source. You throw your hands out and hit a wall that wasn't there before. Then a door that is. You shove it open and spill back into the dormitory, wheezing, wet, and minus one shoe. The others stare. No one asks what you saw. That's not how stories work here. You sit in the corner, shaking and soggy, and someone hands you a bit of stale bread as if to say, "Welcome back." The rattling doesn't stop. It never does. But now, when you hear it, it's not just noise. It's rhythm, a pattern, a message, maybe, in a language made of teeth and rust. You don't sleep. The floor doesn't like it when you sleep. She's already spinning when you spot her halfway between the soot carts and a collapsed fence that smells like bad bets. The street is ankle-deep in yesterday's rain and the week's waste. But she doesn't seem to mind. Her arms cut the air like she's conducting a symphony only she can hear, and her feet slap the mud with a rhythm too precise to be clumsy. Her dress was probably white once. Now it's a patchwork of ash and defiance. You stop, not because she's beautiful, though she is, in the way cracked glass catches light, but because she's wrong. People don't dance here, not unless they've lost a bet, a screw, or both. And no one laughs like that in London's East End, unless they're about to be arrested or possessed. She sees you watching. "Don't wrinkle your face like that," she calls, spinning into a bow. "You'll get stuck like it." You ask her what she's doing, because your brain's still playing catch-up with your eyes. "Dancing," she says, as if you're the slow one. "Obviously." You point out the mud, the smell, the fact that she's ankle-deep in something that just twitched. She shrugs. "Mud's honest. You know what you're in, unlike people." She kicks a splatter of it toward a passing carriage. The horse snorts. The driver doesn't look down. You step closer, mostly because your legs think she might vanish if you don't. She has the eyes of someone who remembers things too vividly and chooses joy out of spite. Her smile's a little lopsided, like it was broken once and healed with personality. You ask her again, why here? Why now? She stops dancing just long enough to lean in and whisper, because no one's watching anymore. But you are, and she knows it. She resumes twirling like the city hasn't given up yet, like the smog above her is stage smoke and the broken chimney behind her is a spotlight. A dog barks in the distance. Someone yells about fish. A baby wails like it's been born into disappointment. She dances anyway. You sit on a crate that tries to collapse under your weight and watch her glide across puddles like she's paid rent to them. There's soot on her cheeks and something glittering in her hair that might be glass or wishful thinking. She tells you she used to be a chimney sweep, says the rooftops were quieter, the sky closer, says the city looks different when you're above it, less cruel, more pretend. You ask her name. She laughs again. Names are for people with futures. You don't push. She pulls a shard of mirror from her dress pocket, polished on one side and cracked down the center. She shows you your face. You don't recognize it. She flips it, shows you hers. It's still smiling, even upside down. You ask if she lives nearby. She nods at the mud. Everyone ends up here eventually. Some of us just arrive early to decorate. She spins once more, arms wide, eyes shut, mouth open to the fog like it's feeding her. You realize the mud hasn't touched her dress in a while. It moves around her, respectfully. A man walks by and calls her mad. She curtsies. "Only on Mondays," she says. "It's Thursday." He hurries off. She tells you she used to believe in miracles, but then she realized miracles are just the things that happen when no one's looking. So she dances when no one looks. And sometimes, when they do, you ask if you can join. She considers you like a butcher eyes a carrot, then shrugs. If you've got toes, use them. You take one step into the mud. It welcomes you like an old friend you owe money to. You stumble. She catches you. Her hands are warm, even through the grime. You dance, badly. She grins, and for a moment, London stops. The fog pauses. The chimneys hold their breath. The ground doesn't rattle. The city forgets its hunger. You are not happy, but you are watching her. And that, somehow, is enough. It starts with a marble. You don't see who rolls it toward you, but there it is, glinting in the soot like it knows something you don't. You bend to pick it up, and by the time you straighten, there are children, 4, maybe 5. It's hard to count. They shift, like smoke pretending to be people. Their clothes are stitched, from scraps. Their shoes, if any, don't match. And one of them is definitely wearing a curtain rod as a belt. "You want to play?" asks the tallest. His teeth are far too orderly for someone who lives in this part of town, which is immediately suspicious. You ask what the game is. They laugh, in unison, which is never a good sign. It's not menacing, exactly, just knowing. "It's called legs," says a girl with a boot on one foot and a sock puppet on the other. The puppet nods, like it agrees with everything she's ever said. You ask how it works. They ignore the question, which seems to be part of the game already. You're ushered gently, but persistently into a rough circle, drawn in chalk that smells like pickled onions and poor choices. The children form a ring around you. One of them hums a tune that sounds like it used to be a lullaby but has since seen things. Another one claps out a rhythm on a washboard that wasn't part of the scene 5 seconds ago. The rules, such as they are, involve jumping, not over anything, not through, just away, from others, from the center, from reason. Someone calls round 1, and suddenly they're all on the ground, legs flailing like overexcited beetles. You copy them, hesitantly. It's unclear if you're doing well or terribly. The girl with the sock puppet shouts, 3 legs, and everyone grabs one of their own, and one from someone else, and begins hopping in a configuration that cannot possibly be legal in any known jurisdiction. You fall. They cheer. "Bonus point for dirt," says the smallest child, who might be 7 or a figment of your exhaustion. She places a stone in your hand like it's a medal. You drop it, and she hisses at you. The sock puppet shakes its head. Round 2 is faster. Someone grabs your ankles. Someone else claps in your face. You don't know whether to laugh or cry, so you do a bit of both and call it balance. You lose a sock in the process, but they assure you this is expected. "A sock given is a rule broken," says one, solemnly, before giggling into his elbow. You try to back out, declare defeat, tap out. They don't stop you, but they don't move either. They just watch, like something behind their eyes is older than it should be. The air goes still. The soot lifts slightly from the cobblestones. A crow somewhere in the distance forgets how to caw. "You've got good legs," the tall one says. "For now." You smile politely, which is the international sign for "please don't hex me." They erupt into motion again. Laughter, stomping, arms flailing in windmill arcs as they leap over puddles and each other with the grace of startled frogs. You're pulled back in, not by force, but by rhythm, by the fact that, for all its nonsense, the game feels like something you needed without knowing why, like a memory that never belonged to you but fits anyway. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's allowed. The game ends when someone yells, "Too many knees," and everyone collapses in a heap of limbs and wheezing. You land on your back, staring at a sky that might be blue. If you squint hard enough through the smoke, you're muddy, missing a sock, and possibly concussed. But the kids high-five you like you just won something. You ask what the prize is. "Your legs," one whispers. You blink. They're gone. The circle is empty. No chalk, no washboard, no puppet. Just a marble by your foot and the lingering echo of children laughing somewhere behind the fog. You check your legs. They're still there. But now, they tremble. Not from cold, from memory. Everything stops on Sunday, except the smoke. The smoke has its own religion, and it doesn't rest for anyone. It rises from the chimneys in fat gray columns that curl over the rooftops like they're late to a funeral and intend to make an entrance. The bells ring, not out of holiness but habit, and somewhere a woman yells at a pig for trespassing. It's Sunday in London. The city exhales, but it doesn't clean its lungs. You follow the others to the makeshift chapel, a room that used to be a bakery, then a pawn shop, then possibly a crime scene. Now it's a church. The walls still smell faintly of yeast and disappointment. A wooden crate serves as a pulpit, and the preacher is a man with more hair on his coat than his head. They call him Father Blight, though there's no evidence of ordination. He waves his arms like he's conducting lightning, eyes wide, mouth wider. "Bread," he shouts. "Bread is the body of the Lord, unless you can't afford it, in which case, it's the body of greed." Everyone murmurs amen, because it's safer than not. You sit on a crate near the back beside an old woman muttering about rats with souls. Snipe is here too, half listening, half looting the collection plate with the subtlety of a crow at a picnic. He winks when he catches your eye, then pockets a coin with such practiced grace you almost applaud. Father Blight keeps preaching about bread, though by the sound of it, his true gospel is hunger. His voice rises and falls like the tide, but saltier. "The bakers hoard the wheat. The rich eat the crusts of our bones. But we," he slams his hand on the crate, "we will rise like dough in the heat of righteousness." Someone claps. Someone else sneezes. A baby cries with perfect timing. You try to listen, but your stomach interrupts with an eloquent growl. The woman beside you offers a crumb from her pocket and says, "It's yesterday's, but so are we." You take it, chew carefully, and hope it wasn't moving before you started. Halfway through the sermon, a commotion breaks out near the door. A man with a sack too full for honesty bolts past the preacher and into the street. Snipe stands, sighs, and says, "That's my sack." Then he runs after him, barefoot and delighted. The congregation scatters like pigeons after a gunshot. Father Blight doesn't miss a beat. "See?" he booms. "Temptation steals from the faithful. The Lord's loaf is never safe." He climbs off his crate and snatches something from behind you, your boots. "Donation," he declares, not looking at you, and darts out the side door with the holy energy of a man late to his own scam. You stare at your now sock-covered feet, then at the door, then at the ceiling. The ceiling stares back. You chase him. Outside, the air tastes like soot and judgment. The street is alive again, Sunday or not. London never stays still for long. You weave between carts, leap over puddles, and nearly trip over a man selling questionable sausages. Ahead, Father Blight sprints with your boots tucked under one arm, sermonizing between breaths. The meek shall inherit gasp, whatever they can catch. You catch him near a pub called the Limping Swan, which is fitting. He's cornered by a group of crawlers, all crouched low, their eyes reflecting the lamplight like damp coins. One of them hisses, another coughs, something wet, and laughs about it. "Brothers," Father Blight says, raising your boots like an offering. "Shoes for the shoeless, proof of divine providence. One crawler snatches a boot, another bites it, nods in approval, and hands it back. They mutter something about soft souls, good trade. You're not sure whether they're admiring or appraising. You demand your boots. Father Blight looks wounded. You deny the poor? He gasps. On a Sunday? You remind him he is the poor, and it's your Sunday. The crawlers laugh, an eerie, wheezing sound like air escaping through the cracks of the world. One of them tosses your boots back, and you catch them, barely. Father Blight bows as though he's been defeated in a duel of morals. Bless you, child. May your steps be guided by grace and grime alike. Then he vanishes into the fog, lighter by 2 coins and any pretense of dignity. You walk home barefoot, boots slung over your shoulder, socks soaked through. The bells ring again, distant and hollow, like they're laughing too. The smoke keeps rising, always does. It doesn't rest, or pray, or repent. It just keeps moving, like the city beneath it. You drop the coin by accident, or maybe the street tilts. Either way, it slips from your fingers like it's been waiting for the chance, bouncing once on the cobblestones before skittering straight into a drain between 2 slabs of wet stone. The sound it makes, as it disappears, soft, metallic, final, somehow feels personal. You crouch, muttering words unsuitable for Sunday school, and peer into the grate. It's narrow, crusted with rust and soot, and it stinks of rotted cabbage, forgotten teeth, and something worse you can't name. Most drains swallow and forget. This one lingers. You whisper down into it. Nothing happens. You consider moving on. It's just a coin. It wasn't even yours. Originally, Snipe gave it to you, which doesn't guarantee legality. Still, it had weight, hope, potential pie. You give the grate a gentle kick. It spits. The coin clinks against the metal, launches up like it's been fired from a slingshot, and lands at your feet warm, wet, and somehow heavier. You stare at it, then back at the drain. Then it whispers your name. Not loud, not angry, just casual, like it knows you, like you've shared secrets over lukewarm stew and stolen matches. You did not tell it your name. You didn't even say hello. You stand quickly, too quickly, and your knee pops like it's trying to leave your body. The street around you is quiet. Not the usual London quiet, which includes yelling, distant pigs, and the clink of 100 hungry cups. No, this is hush quiet, the sort of quiet that feels bought. You hear your breath. You hear the drain breathing with you. You take a step back. The coin rolls forward. You do not pick it up. Behind you, someone coughs. You spin. No one. The fog, the cart tracks, the brick walls, all exactly where you left them. But the grate is still watching. You can feel it, like it's waiting for you to say something worth hearing. You crouch again, just far enough to see the lip of the hole but not fall into it. What do you want? You whisper. The drain gurgles. Something below it shifts wet cloth on stone or maybe flesh. A dragging sound, like something rearranging itself into a more conversational position. Come closer, it whispers. You do not. The coin pulses once. Just a flicker of heat under the grime, like it's remembering the sun. You ask how it knows your name. You do not expect a real answer. It laughs. Not a villain's laugh. Not a child's. Something between a chuckle and a leak. You dropped it, the voice says. So I looked. You ask what it saw. It says, enough. You look at the coin again. It's old now. Too old. The queen's face is gone, replaced by something with too many eyes. The date is smudged out, replaced with scratches that might be numbers or warnings. You kick it back toward the grate. It doesn't move. You try again. Still nothing. You crouch and touch it, half expecting it to bite. It hums. The drain says, you can leave it, but it will follow. You pocket it. You don't know why, but it feels better than leaving it there. in case someone else finds it and starts hearing things too. The drain gurgles once more, as if satisfied. Then the street noise returns in pieces. A baby crying, a dog barking, someone cursing about spoiled eels. Normal chaos, the kind you can navigate. You walk away. Behind you, the coin presses against your leg like it's settling in. It doesn't feel like yours anymore. Then again, maybe it never was. They find you near a broken well that smells of copper and lost bets. One by one, they emerge not from alleyways or doorways, but beneath, from under crates, under wagons, from the undersides of things that should never have an underside. Clothes torn into utility, elbows wrapped in wool, knees like gravel. They move low, always low, like the world's ceiling is pressing down, and they're the only ones who figured it out. The first one speaks without looking at you. Walking is for people with illusions, he says, voice like an old drawer sliding open. You'll be lighter when you stop standing. You don't ask his name. You're learning that names aren't offered here. They're either obvious soot, nails, bucket, or unspoken, stitched into how someone moves, the sound their breath makes in a tunnel. A girl with wrists like twigs and teeth like broken keys flicks her fingers at you. Show us your crawl. You laugh. Lightly, stupidly. No one else laughs. Then they begin. Not all at once, but as if a signal passed silently between them. A shuffle, a slither, a graceless grace. Palms against wet stone, knees carving familiar grooves. They don't speak as they move, only breathe, heavily, rhythmic, like the ground is singing to them and they're answering back. You watch, then you drop. It hurts, not in a dramatic, theatrical way, in a quiet, bone-deep way. Your knees hit stone that's seen more blood than sunshine, and your hands stick slightly to the ground like it's remembering everyone who came before you. Your spine protests, your dignity sulks, but you crawl forward, toward the dim lantern. One of them drags behind them on a string of hair. Better? Someone mutters. You don't know who. You don't ask. They lead you through a back route beneath Fishbone Street, a path so narrow even the air moves sideways. Pipes hiss. Rats flee. Something skitters overhead, large enough to have opinions. But the crawlers move without pause, navigating by scent, sound, muscle memory. You lose track of turns after the fourth archway and the second scream. Most folks live above, one says, tracing a line on the wall, with something that might be chalk, or just bone rubbed soft. Above means rules, rent, law, time. Here, she taps the stone. Here, it's just yes or no, crawl or don't. A small boy, with no shirt and too many scars, climbs up from a chute, dragging a sack behind him that clinks like secrets. He gives you a look, not curious, not friendly, just a quick once-over to see what kind of meat you are. You ask where they sleep. They laugh. All of them. Not cruelly, not kindly, just knowingly. Sleep is what happens when the fog forgets to whisper, says a man with fingernails sharp enough to write in glass. You don't press. Later, they pause in a chamber that used to be something official. There's a rusted plaque on the wall that once read, Telegraphs, now covered in soot and teeth marks. They pass around a jar filled with something thick and sweet and questionably alive. You drink. It tastes like syrup filtered through a boot. You drink again. No one talks about the surface, not in words. But now and then, someone twitches when they hear footsteps above. A child flinches at the clatter of a cart. A woman mutters, "Too many shoes," and crawls deeper into the tunnel until she disappears. You ask why they do it. Why not walk? A boy no older than 12 shrugs. Walkers get noticed. Crawlers get through. And maybe that's it. Maybe crawling isn't about defeat. Maybe it's about slipping between the cracks wide enough to hold a life, but too narrow to tax it. You realize you haven't stood in hours. Your knees ache. Your palms blister. But when you hear the scuff of boots above, loud and thoughtless, you press closer to the ground like it's a friend. The others nod, slow and silent. Approval, maybe. Or recognition. Somewhere in the dark, someone hums. You hum back. The boy finds you while you're trying to nap beneath a sagging crate that smells like flour, sweat, and a memory of cinnamon that died long ago. He doesn't knock or cough or shuffle. He just appears, staring down at you with eyes too sharp for someone missing both shoes and one eyebrow. "I'm Prince of the Third Nest," he says, voice confident, possibly rehearsed. "Rat King's nephew, not by blood, by declaration. He chose me because I bit a constable and didn't cry." You blink, trying to determine whether you're still asleep. The boy leans in closer. His crown is a bent spoon, wedged into a wool cap several sizes too large and held steady by something sticky and ambitious. He carries himself like someone who owns his own flag. "Do you accept the honor of knighthood, or must we duel?" he asks, lifting a stick that was clearly once part of a chair and now bears faint scorch marks and a single chicken feather. You ask what knighthood entails. He shrugs. Mostly crawling, sometimes spying, occasionally sacrifice, but only of buttons or pride. He pauses. "We lost Sir Tumbler last week to a loose cobble. Brave soul." You sit, up, partly to get a better view, partly because he's now poking your arm with the stick. "Say the oath," he commands. You say you don't know it. "I'll whisper it, then you say it louder," he says, stepping into a shaft of light like he's on stage. His spoon gleams for half a second before the fog swallows it again. He clears his throat. "I swear by the bread crust crown and the unseen tail to serve the nest in crawl and cause, to eat what is found, to hide when watched, and to never speak of the above unless mocking it." You repeat it, mostly accurately. He nods, pleased, taps both your shoulders with the stick, then your forehead for good measure. "Arise, sir." He pauses. "What's your tunnel name?" You don't have one. He frowns. "You do now, Sir Grimbelly." You consider protesting, but he's already handed you a string with a button tied to the end and declared it your sigil. You tie it around your wrist. It itches immediately. You decide. This is tradition. He leads you through a tunnel that runs directly beneath a bakery. The ceiling drips butter. You are not exaggerating. There is literal butter condensation. He tells you to keep your voice low, or the crust watchers will hear. You ask who that is. He points to a cluster of rats perched along a beam, unmoving, watching like tiny judges with tails. "They serve the king directly," he whispers. He speaks through them. "Also, they bite ankles." In the hollow beneath a brick oven, he's made a throne. It's a pile of biscuit tins and broken china, flanked by two headless dolls whose expressions are somehow still deeply disapproving. He takes a seat with a grunt and adjusts his spoon. "I brought you here because you have the look," he says. "The look of someone who stopped looking up." "You don't know what that means," he explains. "Walkers always look up. Dream of rooftops, towers, sunshine. Crawlers know there's treasure in the roots. Dead, man's pockets, forgotten prayers, secrets with teeth." He points to a small sack behind his throne. Inside are buttons, bits of string, one molar, and what might be a petrified beetle dressed in a cravat. "Every night brings something back," he says. "That's the law. You bring back nothing, you go back to walker status. You don't want that. Walkers cry too loud when they bleed." You nod solemnly, as is custom. He gives you a map. It's a crumpled piece of pastry paper with a single X and a lot of enthusiastic arrows. Follow the grease. If you get lost, sniff for vinegar. That means you're near Pickle Bob's tunnel, and he owes me. You ask if the Rat King is real. He leans forward, spoon glinting again. He's real when you need him. That's the only kind of real that matters down here. Then he smiles, the kind of smile that's missing a few parts but makes up for it with confidence. Go now, Sir Grimbelly. Return before dusk, or the pipes start singing. You crawl away on butter-slick brick, with a button sigil bouncing at your wrist, the echo of laughter behind you, and just the faintest hope that whatever waits at the X doesn't have more than one head. So begins your first mission for the nest. You smell it before you see it. Something sweet, which isn't normal down here. Not good sweet either. Not apple tart or roasted chestnut. More like sugar that's been through something traumatic. Syrupy, yes, but cloying. Wrong, with something sharp curling behind it, like flowers left too long in dirty water. But still, it smells like hope, or something pretending to be it. And that's enough. So you follow. Past the cracked barrel and the heap of broken violins someone swears is a shelter. Past Snipe, who's picking something from his ear and waving hello with the same hand. Down a corridor where the bricks sweat and the floor hums beneath your knees. The crawlers told you not to follow smells, but they also eat shoes and gamble with their teeth, so advice is relative. The scent intensifies. It starts coating your tongue. You want to swallow, but your throat disagrees. Still, your hands keep moving forward, and your knees obey like they know something you don't. You find the room tucked behind a collapsing wall that looks like it gave up mid-lean. There's no door, just an opening where something heavy used to be. Inside, 3 walls, a ceiling of soot-stained beams, and a floor that tilts like it's been listening to secrets too long. The 4th wall? It isn't missing. It's gone, like it was never supposed to be there. Just emptiness stretching out into black, a 4th direction that feels illegal. And in the center, a table, wooden, warped, and grinning with rot. On top of it, something steaming in a chipped teacup. The source of the smell, the promise, the lie. You step in. Immediately the sound changes. No echo, no drip. Just hush, like you've walked into the pause between thunder and the scream. You move closer. The cup's filled with something thick, lavender gray with swirls of copper, like someone melted coins into a dream. It doesn't bubble. It shifts, like it's breathing through its skin. There's a note beside it. One word. Drink. You consider your life choices. They're mostly bad. You drink. It tastes like bruised peaches and forgotten lullabies. And then something sharp, like gravel in a snow cone. Your throat tightens, your eyes burn, and the walls lean in a little closer just to watch. Then you see it. Not the room, not even London. You see your old life, the one with beds and books and clocks. You see what could be, a version of you with clean nails and breakfast. You see shoes that fit. You see laughter that doesn't echo off stone. You see a door, not in the room in you. And then it's gone. The walls stop breathing. The floor steadies. You cough, and it sounds like someone else's voice. There's another note now. Same place. Different words. It only opens once. You stare at the cup. Empty. Of course. Even the steam is gone. Just a rim of something metallic, drying like blood, but not quite. Someone clears their throat behind you. You turn. Fast. Too fast. And nearly fall. A woman stands just inside the doorway, barefoot, nose crooked, wearing a coat made of curtain tassels. She looks at the table, then at you. Tastes like a lie, doesn't it? She says. You nod. She sits, pulls something from her pocket, a bone die, yellowed and etched with symbols that don't belong to any language you've ever trusted. She rolls it on the table. It lands on a blank side. She frowns. Means it worked. Or it didn't. Hard to say. You ask what the drink was. Hope, she says. Or opium. Maybe both. Sometimes they share recipes. She offers you the die. Your turn. You roll. You don't see what it lands on, but her expression changes. Better crawl fast, she says, standing. Sometimes the fourth wall comes back. You turn to leave. The door is gone. The fourth wall has returned, and it's smiling. The room is warmer than you expect, though that might just be the number of bodies in it. Or parts of bodies, anyway. You stop counting limbs after 7 elbows, none of them in the places they belong. No one rises to greet you. Most couldn't if they tried. A man with half a leg and a full beard nods from his cot, which is less a bed and more a suggestion of one. He gestures to a dent in the floorboards that might be available. You take it. The walls are too close together, too low, too wet. The ceiling drips. It's unclear if it's water or ambition trying to escape. A cracked lantern flickers in the corner like it's fighting sleep. No one speaks for a while, except a girl in the corner who mutters chess moves to herself and occasionally shouts check at no one. Eventually, someone passes you a tin plate with a biscuit on it. It's not shaped like food. It's shaped like something that used to be cursed and then got bored. You chew it anyway. It doesn't give. You chew harder. It wins. That's Brenda's baking, says the man with the beard. We don't ask where she gets the flour, or the oven, or the religion she's clearly cursed us with. A laugh ripples through the room like a memory someone dropped and everyone stepped on. It's not cheerful, but it's communal. A kind of ritual. You join in, not because it's funny, but because not laughing feels dangerous here. The silence has teeth. A woman with no fingers rolls a cigarette using only her elbows in astonishing spite. She lights it on a nail driven halfway into the wall, which glows faintly red like it's been used before. So, she says, voice hoarse and papery, what did you lose? You pause. Hope? Someone offers. Dignity? I lost my kneecaps to a goose once. Vicious one. Had a vendetta. I lost a tooth to a bet, says another. The bet was I couldn't swallow the tooth. I won. I lost my heart to a boy named Cecil, Brenda adds from the other side. He gave it back, but by then it had mold. The girl in the corner says bishop to c4 and starts weeping softly. You tell them you haven't lost anything yet. They all go quiet. Then someone says, give it time, and they laugh again. The night stretches. Stories are swapped like coins, small and bruised, and not entirely trustworthy. One man claims he once danced for Queen Victoria, but only from the knees down. Another insists he's got a ghost limb that itches whenever someone lies nearby. He scratches the air occasionally and glares at people. Brenda passes around another round of biscuits. You chew with commitment and a little fear. They don't pity themselves. That's the strangest part. They make jokes, bad ones, worse than yours. There's an entire debate about whether a missing arm makes you more aerodynamic or simply more mysterious. Someone invents a game called Guess What's Gone, which ends when Brenda pulls up her skirt and no one wants to play anymore. But underneath the jokes, there's a hum, a kind of pressure. Like the walls remember screams and are waiting for the encore. Like everyone here is balancing just slightly off-center, using laughter as a cane. You feel it too, that creeping bend inside you, that tilt, the slow slouch toward whatever this life is becoming. Later, when the lantern goes out and the room breathes heavier, you lie on your dent in the floor and listen to the sounds of people sleeping crooked. You don't sleep. You just count the breaths and hope none stop. The man with the beard mumbles something in his sleep. You think it's your name, or the name you used to have before all this started. You press your fingers to your face, just to feel that it's still yours, still whole, for now. They arrive smelling like starch and sermons, the kind of clean that's suspicious. White, gloves, not for warmth, but for appearances. Shoes with soles that have never touched real mud. A face like it's never been cold long enough to forget its own shape. You're in the middle of practicing your stoic stare, part scowl, part curiosity, part indigestion from Brenda's biscuits, When the visitor appears, they don't knock. There's nothing to knock on. Just step down from a carriage that has curtains, for God's sake, and stride into the edge of the tunnel like they're here to host a tea party in the underworld. You blink at them. They blink back like you're the one who's inconveniently placed. Are you lost? You ask, even though you know they're not. Lost people look around. This one's eyes are fixed, forward, like they've rehearsed the moment in a mirror and won't let real life disrupt the script. I'm here to help, they say, with the sort of gentle pity that sounds like a slap wearing perfume. You cock your head. They step closer, squinting at you as if your dirt might rearrange itself into something redeemable if they just frown hard enough. You poor soul. You stare, because you've heard worse insults and better lies. Behind them, a small crowd gathers, crawlers, squatters, button collectors, and one man who might be dead but is still enjoying the company. They hover just far enough to pretend they're not watching, but they are. They always are when someone from up top arrives. It's like the zoo's flipped, and now you're the one on display, and the tamer has stepped into the cage holding nothing but good intentions and a very fragile sense of purpose. They begin talking. Something about charity, salvation, transformation. They say the word clean 5 times in a single breath. They mention a mission house with hot water and new names. We give people new names, they say, like that's a kindness and not a theft. You ask what's wrong with the old ones. They don't answer. Instead, they produce a book, leather-bound, gold-lettered. It gleams, it radiates. It probably has a better diet than you do. They flip to a page and read something softly, about light and rising. You listen because silence costs less than confrontation, but your fists clench anyway, not out of rage, not yet, but from the memory of every time someone came down here pretending the world was just stairs and willpower, like dirt wasn't sticky, like hunger didn't make decisions for you. They reach for your hand. You pull it back. They pause. Their smile falters like a candle in a draft. I only want to show you there's more, they say. There was more, you reply. Before I learned what people do when no one's watching. That one lands. Their face changes. Not rage. Worse, disappointment. Like you failed a test they made up in their head. They tell you it's not too late. You tell them they're late. Years too late. Whole lives too late. You say, you call. Me poor, but I've shared more in this hole than I ever did in the light. They blink. Behind you, someone claps. Just once. Brenda, probably. Always theatrical when her teeth aren't hurting. The up-topper steps back. They don't argue. They don't fight. They just nod like they've been told this might happen. They leave a wrapped parcel bread, maybe, or guilt in crust form and turn without another word. Their boots echo down the tunnel like guilt pretending to be footsteps. When they're gone, no one cheers. But the quiet feels warmer. You unwrap the parcel. It's bread, all right. Dense, dry. Probably made by someone who's never been hungry. You leave it on a crate for the rats to negotiate over. Later, someone asks what they wanted. You say, they came to give us light, and you laugh. A little too long, because down here, everyone knows the shadows are honest. The light lies. The song starts as a hum. Low, slow, and off-key. The kind of sound that's been passed down by people who never had the luxury of being in tune. It slinks through the cracks of the tunnel like it's looking for something, maybe a memory, maybe just a place to sit down. You hear it before you know you're listening, and by the time you realize it's a lullaby, the girl beside you has already started singing. She doesn't look like much of a singer. She's got one eye swollen shut from something she won't name, and 2 fingers wrapped in cloth that's more suggestion than bandage. But her voice has weight, not volume weight, like it knows how heavy sleep can be when the dark is watching. She sings about soot, not metaphorical soot, not poetic grime, actual soot, falling from chimney flues and ceiling cracks, coating babies before their first names ever get spoken aloud. She sings about cradling things that shouldn't be cradled, rats, mostly. Once, a pigeon with one leg and a temper. She sings about a tooth, too. A missing one, says it, belonged to a boy named Gilly, who used to trade ghost stories for soup. One night, he told a story so good it frightened the tooth right out of his mouth. He kept it in his pocket for luck, until the pocket got stolen. By the third verse, you realize everyone in the tunnel knows it. Even the ones pretending to sleep. Even the ones who only hum. One old woman in the corner mouths the words but doesn't make a sound. Her lips twitch like they're remembering how. You ask what the song's called. The girl shrugs. Gutter lullaby, she says. Or dog song. Depends who you ask. You ask why. She points to the last line. The one about a dog that hasn't barked in 20 years. Not because it's dead. Because it's listening. Always. And the crawlers sing so it knows where they are. Knows they remember. That dog kept the fog back. Someone mumbles. You turn. A man with no eyebrows and a hat made of newspaper is staring at you like you've forgotten something vital. Kept. The bad air from curling under your ribs. You sing. It hears. It keeps the worst things sleeping. You look down the tunnel. You wonder what qualifies as worst. The song ends with a hush. Not silence. A hush. Like the walls are holding their breath, waiting for a chorus that never comes. The girl lies down, wraps herself in a coat that isn't hers, and hums one more note, soft as soot. You lie down too. You find yourself mouthing the words without meaning to. They don't rhyme. They don't even quite make sense. But they fit. Like clothes handed down too many times, torn in places, but warmer than anything new. You don't sleep right away. Your mind keeps spinning on that final line. The dog, the hush, the idea of something ancient and toothless curled in the dark, ears perked. Not dangerous, not quite, but present. Waiting. You ask the man with the newspaper hat if the dog was real. He shrugs. Maybe. Then he leans close, breath like rusted teapots. But I ain't heard a cough in days. And nobody's gone missing all week, so I'd say the song's still working. You think about that. You hum the first few lines again, under your breath this time, just in case. And somewhere, in the distance where the bricks sweat and the fog forgets your name, something shifts. Listening. The cobbler lives in a stall made from 4 crates and half an umbrella. The umbrella's lace, torn and stubborn. It offers no shelter but plenty of atmosphere. His tools hang from strings above his head like kitchen herbs or threats. The stall smells like wax, damp leather, and a kind of sadness that's forgotten how to cry properly. He doesn't look up when you approach. His hands are too busy pretending this matters. A single boot rests in his lap brown, with brass eyelets and a heel that could double as a weapon. It's beautiful. A contradiction. Polished like it's got somewhere to be, even though it never will. No customers, he mutters. Before you even speak. His voice is dry, cracked, but not unkind. Not in years. Feet are out of fashion down here. You look down. His legs end just above the knees, wrapped in clean linen, folded neatly beneath him, like he's sitting on the idea of walking. He sees you looking and smirks, not with bitterness, but with the kind of practiced ease that says he's told this joke before, and it still gets a laugh from someone, usually himself. Still make shoes, he says, better than most who still stand. You ask why. He holds up the boot and shrugs. Sanity mostly, structure. Some people pray. I make souls. You can't tell if that's a pun. He doesn't blink either way. The shoes around him aren't ordinary. Some gleam. Some have buttons instead of laces, or heels made from carved bone. One pair glows faintly blue in the dark, like someone bottled moonlight and stitched it in with catgut. None are the same size. You don't ask why. You're afraid he'll answer. He gestures to a pair near your foot. Worn green leather, square toe, crooked seams. Try one, he says. Not both, just one. Balance is overrated anyway. You hesitate, but he's already watching you with those unreadable eyes, so you pick up the left shoe and slide it on. It's warm, not in a way that suggests it's been sitting near a stove. Warm like a memory, like you've worn it before. Maybe in a life where you read newspapers that weren't used for insulation. You stand. Something shifts. The tunnel feels brighter. Or maybe you do. You open your mouth to say something clever and stop, because when you do speak, your voice has moved 3 burrows west. It lilts. It twirls its R's. It says, indeed, without irony. The cobbler bursts out laughing. Ah, he says, that one belonged to a conductor, spoke 12 languages, and none of them convincingly. Thought shoes were the soul's autobiography. You try to take it off. It doesn't budge. Give it time, he adds. It'll let go when it's ready. You ask what happens if you wear both. He goes quiet. His fingers twitch toward the boot in his lap, then stop. Some doors only open when you forget how to walk backwards. It sounds profound, or dangerous, or like something someone once carved into a wall before vanishing forever. You thank him, awkwardly, and turn to leave. The shoe taps with confidence on the stone floor, like it knows where you're going before you do. As you go, he calls after you, leave it by the gutter when you're done. The right foot's still waiting. You nod. Not because you understand, but because the shoe does. At first, it's just a flicker, a sound not quite yours, tucked between breaths. You think it's someone else crying, or laughing, or coughing in reverse. The tunnels echo strangely, and sometimes your own thoughts come back wearing a different voice. Then the flicker becomes a dream. Not a full one, just impressions. Rusted, iron gates, and the crunch of glass under bare feet. A name you don't remember having. A door with a handle made of knotted hair. You wake with your hands clenched and your mouth full of dirt, even though the ground is dry. Snipe says you were howling. Says he was about to throw a boot at you, only stopped because he thought maybe you were singing. The next night, it happens again. This time, the dream smells like milk gone bad and lamp oil. You're kneeling on a stone floor. There are bones beside you, not fresh, arranged oddly in rows. Someone speaks in a language made entirely of vowels. You nod like you understand, and you do, at least in the dream. You wake up sobbing, not the tidy kind, the kind that surprises you, like it's being wrung from somewhere behind your ribs. You try to swallow it, but the sob fights back. It climbs out of you like it's escaping a fire. The others don't say much. Brenda gives you half a biscuit and tells you to sleep in shifts from now on. Says full night sleep's a fool's luxury. Duchess mutters that dreaming is what happens when the city is feeling lonely. Wants someone to talk to, so it rattles your insides till they answer. Tunnel dreams, she says, pointing to her temple. Some folk get 'em. Means the smoke likes you, or it's digesting you slow. You don't know which is worse. You try not to sleep, but sleep doesn't need your permission anymore. It slips in when you blink too long. It waits in corners. It hums lullabies in the drip of leaking pipes. And every time it drags you down, it leaves you with something sticky clinging to your thoughts. A number, a child's shoe, the name Evie, etched in soapstone. You don't know who she is, but you miss her so much your teeth hurt. One night, you dream you're crawling again. Not here. Somewhere else. Grander. A ballroom, maybe, before the roof fell in. You're wearing gloves that don't fit and dragging your limbs like they're borrowed. People around you move the same way. Not dancers, not beggars, just movers. Crawl by crawl, face blank, bodies weaving in slow, desperate patterns. You think maybe it's a memory, yours, or someone's who left it lying around for you to trip over. You wake to find your nails caked in soot, and not from here. Snipe notices, doesn't ask, just nods and says, "Told you." The crawl remembers. You ask him what that means. He shrugs. Means you're not new anymore. You want to argue, but something inside you shifts, like a latch sliding shut or open. You're not sure. You can't remember the sound of your own voice before this place. You try to hum a tune from your old life and end up with the gutter lullaby instead. Later, you hear someone whisper in their sleep. A name, not yours, but you answer anyway, just in case it used to be. That night, the dream doesn't wait for sleep. It starts the moment you close your eyes. The invitation comes folded in grease-stained paper, slipped under your elbow while you're dozing beneath a collapsed cart that smells like pickled turnips and possibly a corpse. It reads, "Come proper. No standing. Midnight. Bring bones." There's no signature, just a smear of soot in the shape of what might be a cat or a warning. Either way, you go. Midnight in the East End feels like a dare. You follow flickering candle stubs down a row of leaning chimneys and drop through a gap in the cobblestones so thin it feels personal. The tunnel below hums with anticipation and mild mildew. You crawl, because walking is not only frowned upon, it's forbidden. A boy with copper teeth hisses at a man who tries to stand. He doesn't try again. The ballroom, or what's left of it, is below a shattered skylight. Glass crunches softly beneath knees and palms like frozen sugar. The moon peers through the broken panes above, offering judgment or just curiosity. It's the fanciest ruin you've seen yet. Ripped red drapery, bent, chandeliers, a pile of shoes in the corner, none of them in pairs. The music creaks out of a phonograph that looks like it escaped a fire, dragged itself here, and is now making the best of things. Everyone crawls. A woman in a tulle skirt stitched with buttons glides past, dragging her feet behind her like forgotten dreams. Snipe wears a cravat made from a curtain tie and bows exaggeratedly each time he bumps into someone. You've never seen him so polite. It's terrifying. Then someone hands you a bottle, the label's scratched off. The liquid inside glows faintly, like it resents being contained. It smells like turpentine had an affair with peppermint. Snipe grins and whispers, "Footshine. Best not ask what's in it." Then he drinks half of his and shudders so hard his hat falls off. You sip. Time flattens. The floor breathes. The candles start dancing. You're pretty sure the girl in the lace mask just winked at you, but it's hard to tell because she has an extra eye drawn on her cheek, and it's blinking too. Someone in a feathered coat howls and slaps the ground like it owes him money. And then God arrives. Not with fanfare, not with trumpets or light or even a clear form, just a presence. Sitting on a broken chair in the center of the room, picking at something in his teeth with a sliver of bone. He looks tired, and maybe a little drunk. Someone tosses him a coin. He misses. "Landlord's after me," he mutters. "Bloke upstairs. Never liked me." You nod like this makes sense. Because somehow, in this moment, it absolutely does. The dancing begins without warning, crawling in circles, a ritual of limbs and laughter and occasional cursing when knees meet broken glass. There's a rhythm to it, primal and wrong in the most beautiful way. You crawl, you laugh, you forget your name for a moment, and it feels like freedom. Later, much later, you find yourself lying on your back, staring at the cracked ceiling. Your legs don't work properly. Your head hums with something between joy and nausea. God's gone. So is Snipe. The phonograph is playing something that sounds suspiciously like a hymn, or maybe it's just rewinding. You roll to your side and see a girl clutching a bottle of Footshine like it's a relic. She's humming through her teeth, eyes closed, smiling like she knows tomorrow won't be better, but tonight didn't ask it to be. No one stands when they leave. Some limp. Most crawl. You do too. Not because you have to, because after a night like this, walking would feel dishonest. They wake you before dawn, if dawn even matters down here. A boot nudges your ribs, like it's not entirely convinced you're alive. Duchess looms over you with a scarf tied like a crown, and a look that says, congratulations or condolences hard to tell before tea. You're due, she says. No explanation, no breakfast, just that. The others are gathered by the drain mouth, the wide one with the rusted bars that never seems to dry. Someone's strung-up candle ends in a circle, flickering like judgment. Brenda's got a bowl of something viscous and brown, which she splashes onto your back without ceremony. Tradition, she shrugs, also keeps the rats guessing. The grime writes. You'd heard whispers, half dare, half ceremony, the way crawlers prove themselves, not through fists, not through words, but through distance, elbows only, silent as rot. From the tannery steps to the old brewery arch 3 alleys, 2 tunnels, one hell of a crawl. You begin with confidence, which is your first mistake. The first few feet are manageable. The bricks beneath your arms are slick but warm, as if they've been storing the breath of the city itself. You keep your head low, your shoulders tight, soot cakes under your nails, like it's been waiting for you. A rat scurries past with something shiny in its mouth. It nods like it knows where you're headed and pities you deeply. The silence is harder than the crawling. You want to grunt, sneeze, maybe curse when your arm scrapes something sharp that smells like vinegar and teeth. But the rules are clear. No sound. Make a noise. Start again. No one's watching. And somehow that makes it worse. The absence of eyes feels heavier than any crowd. The first turn is where the real fun begins. It's narrower. The walls weep something thick, and you're not sure if it's water or memory. Your elbows ache. Your jaw clenches. A beetle climbs into your sleeve and refuses to leave. You name it, Gerald. He ignores you. Halfway through the slum, just before the bend that smells like bad decisions and molasses, your right arm starts to tremble. You pause, forehead pressed to the brick. You don't cry. Not exactly, but your eyes leak a little in protest. The grime accepts the offering without thanks. You keep going. There's something humming beneath the ground. Pipes, maybe. Or laughter. The crawlers say the city's got a heart, that it doesn't beat so much as gurgle, that if you lie flat enough, quiet enough, it'll whisper to you. You begin to wonder if the silence isn't for reverence, but for hearing that whisper. You don't hear anything, but something hears you. Halfway, that's when it happens. Your arms give. Not all at once, but like a debt being collected in slow increments. Your shoulders sag. Your elbows slide. You sink forward into the filth and lie there, gasping silently through clenched teeth. Your breath tastes like copper and charcoal. A puddle hugs your cheek. It's oddly warm. You stay there a long time. No one comes to get you. No one marks your place or tells you it's okay to stop. There's no failure ceremony, no consolation prize, just the quiet knowledge that halfway is as far as you got. And maybe, today, that's enough. You crawl back, not for pride, but because the ground behind you is familiar now. It's accepted you, at least in part. When you finally emerge, Duchess offers you a crust of bread and half a nod. You'll try again, she says, and the worst part is, you believe her. It slips through the soot like a thread you can't quite catch. A sound, light as ash but sharp enough to cut your name. Not the one you've been using, the one stitched together from guesses and accidents. The old one, the real one. The name you buried somewhere between a puddle of teeth and a half-eaten biscuit. It echoes again. You stop, mid-crawl, forehead pressed to a damp stone that smells like moldy onions and resignation. The street behind you sighs like it's letting you go. Ahead, fog curls low and slow, clinging to the gutters like it's afraid to be alone. You push up to your knees, then to your feet, breaking the unspoken rule of crawling. No one stops you, they just watch. Snipe is halfway through a game of spit-knuckle with a one-eyed girl named Tuesday. He pauses long enough to glance up and mutter, "Don't follow the smoke. It remembers too much." Then he goes back to losing on purpose. You ignore him. The name calls again. It doesn't sound like you thought it would. There's no comfort in it. No lullaby. It's clipped and rusted, like it's been kept in someone's mouth too long. But it's yours. Or was. You follow it through alleyways that slant sideways and doorways that weren't there yesterday. Past two men arguing over a fish that looks like it might still have plans. The fog thickens. It breathes. You pass a stall selling broken violins and burnt paper. A child with charcoal fingers offers you a smile with too many teeth and none of them her own. She says nothing, but you feel her watching even after you turn the corner. That's when you see the mirror. It's propped between two bins and a door with no handle, cracked down the middle, smudged with fingerprints that don't match yours. The frame is iron and rust and something that once wept. You know you shouldn't. You know better. But you look. It looks back. Not at you, exactly. At the version of you that stopped being useful. The reflection blinks first. Its face is yours, but cleaner, younger. Too clean, in fact. Like it's never tasted ash or slept on brick. Its clothes don't smell like cabbage nightmares. Its eyes aren't ringed with soot and questions. And its mouth doesn't twitch when it hears footsteps in the dark. You hate it immediately. Then it smiles. Not warmly, not kindly. Like it knows something you dropped and can't quite live without. You reach forward. Your fingers meet glass. Cold. Wet. It clings for a second too long. Like it's tasting you. When you pull away, the reflection doesn't. It stays there. Palm pressed. Head tilted. Waiting. Come back. It mouths. But the voice isn't yours. And it isn't kind. You step back. The fog swirls. The name fades again, slipping behind chimney stacks and the silent judgment of a dozen soot-covered ghosts who chose not to chase it. You hear the distant rattle of someone losing a tooth to a bad bet. The city exhales, and you feel it in your ribs. You don't go back the way you came. You don't go forward either. You find a new corner, one that doesn't echo, one that doesn't reflect. You sit, and for the first time in a long while, you try not to remember. The entrance isn't marked. It's just suddenly there, where yesterday there was only a wall with a drawing of a horse mid-sneeze. Now there's a narrow archway humming with light that smells like cinnamon and damp wood, and before you can think twice, your feet decide you're going. The night market doesn't wait for permission. You duck through, and the world folds. The air's warmer here, which is suspicious, and the cobblestones are uneven in a way that makes your ankles remember every bad decision you've made since arrival. Lanterns swing low above your head, casting golden glows on faces you've never seen before but somehow feel like you almost recognize. Not people. Not quite. More like stories in coats. A woman with clock hands for earrings offers you a pastry that pulses slightly when you touch it. You decline, politely. She grins like she knows what you'll dream about later. You pass a stall selling warmth. Literal warmth, bottled in tiny corked flasks. The sign says, 5 minutes of summer. 1 button. You check your pocket. 2 buttons. 1 from your coat. 1 from someone else's coat that ended up in your lap during a soup fight. Barterable, apparently. Next, stall laughter. Not the kind you hear, the kind you feel. It's hung in little glass jars that fizz when you shake them. The vendor has no eyes, but chuckles softly each time someone chooses poorly. Further in, the stalls grow stranger. One sells sighs. Another offers footprints that don't belong to you. There's a booth where you can trade in your reflection, temporarily, just to see what it's like to not look like yourself for an hour. You consider it hard, but Then you find the stall that stops you. It's crooked, small, covered in wool blankets that twitch with the occasional breeze that doesn't exist. Hanging above it is a sign written in charcoal, "Memories, gently used." The man behind the counter is bald, except for a tuft of hair right where his left eyebrow should be. His hands are stained with ink or wine or both. He doesn't speak, just tilts his head and gestures to a wooden box filled with scraps, bits of ribbon, broken keys, a glove with only 3 fingers. You pick one at random, a marble, cloudy blue with a chip in its side. Immediately, you're 5 years old. Not your 5, someone else's. There's sun on your cheeks, someone humming off-key nearby, and a sense that the world is exactly the right size. It vanishes before you can hold it. You need it. He taps a small sign. 1 tier, 2 buttons. You hesitate. The buttons are easy. The tier, less so. You haven't cried properly since the mud angel kissed your forehead and stole your socks. But something about that marble. You close your eyes, think of the mirror, the voice, the name, the way your hands still smell like crawl space and shame. 1 tear falls. Not much, just enough. The marble becomes yours. You hold it in your palm, warm now, like it's remembering you too. You don't stay long after that. The market's beginning to change. The laughter jars have started humming. One of the sausages just blinked. You step back through the archway, buttons gone, eyes a little wetter than before. And outside, the wall is back. The horse is still sneezing. The fog still smells like tomorrow's disappointment. But in your pocket, the marble pulses once, gently, and for a moment, the air doesn't feel quite so cold. Your knees creak like old church pews as you straighten. The cobblestones groan in protest, as if even the city can't quite believe you've dared to rise. Your palms are raw. Your spine is more bruised than bone, and something in your left hip makes a noise like a wet hiccup. But still you stand. There's no music, no fanfare, no curtain drawn back to reveal a shining dawn or a carriage come to take you home. Just the usual fog licking your ankles and the faint scent of cabbage gone emotionally unstable. A one-eyed mongrel pauses mid-pee to observe you with what can only be described as polite skepticism. You are, by every measurable standard, ridiculous but upright. A boy passes by on all fours, dragging a broom head tied to a bootlace. He doesn't look up, just mutters, "Look at Lord Fancy Ankles." You give a theatrical bow. He hisses and scurries on. It feels strange. Height, perspective. The shape of things shifts when you're no longer nose level with drains and forgotten toenails. The city doesn't look cleaner from here, just more complicated. The buildings loom differently. The sky is still a gray dishcloth wrung dry. But your breath comes easier when your chest isn't, pressed to stone. You glance down the alley you came from, where the crawlers are curled in sleep or not sleep, muttering lullabies to no one. You could return, fold your limbs back down and blend once more into the fabric of soot and survival. But something aches inside you that isn't hunger. Not quite hope, not that dramatic. More like a stitch of defiance, a thread pulling taut. You walk, 3 steps, then 5, then 7. You pass the old tannery, where the Duchess is arguing with a barrel about rent. She sees you, eyes narrow. Well, la-di-da. What's next? Shoes. You lift your foot in salute. She throws a potato at you. Further on, a man dressed as a table, no explanation given, or asked tips his hat. You nod back. You're part of something now. Not above it, not beyond it, just beside it. You walk past the grate that whispered your name. It gurgles at your approach but doesn't speak. You don't stop. Let it wonder. At the corner, the mud is thicker, clinging to your ankles like it wants to remember you. You let it. Memory is cheap here, but not worthless. You walk anyway. You find a piece of bread on a windowsill. No one claims it. You take half, leave the other. Fair trade, you think. You're learning. Eventually, you find a stoop and sit, not collapse. Sit. Your legs tremble like they're unsure this counts, but you pat them gently, like you would a nervous animal, and they settle. Above, the clouds shift just enough to let through a sliver of not dark, not quite light either, more like the idea of light. You squint up at it and feel something small and almost forgotten stretch inside your chest. You could lie and say you'll never crawl again, but you know better. The ground still calls. Hunger still lives here. So does the cold. And you, if you're honest. But tonight, just tonight, you stand. Because you chose to. And that's enough. You think you've left. At least, your feet are moving. Not crawling. Not shuffling. Real, upright steps. Like someone with places to be and pockets that might contain more than lint and old string. You've wrapped your toes in rags and convinced yourself that counts as footwear. You pass the edge of the slums, where the soot thins just enough to let you see your own hands again. They don't look like your hands anymore. They look older, or maybe just more honest. No one stops you. That's the worst part. You were ready for resistance. For someone to clutch your ankle and say you haven't earned the leaving. You even practiced your excuse. I've got a sick cousin. Needs soup, or bandages, or a gently haunted scarf. But no one asks. The alleys simply open like a sigh, like lungs exhaling smoke and memories they never wanted in the first place. The street doesn't chase. It remembers. You pass the corner where the mud angel used to dance. The puddle is still there, but it's crusted over now with something less poetic. No laughter, just an overturned crate, and a child poking at a beetle with theological intensity. You nod to her. She doesn't nod back. That's fair. Further on, you hear a wheeze that might be a song or a death rattle. It's coming from the old tannery, now quiet, except for the flies. The Duchess is gone. Vanished, maybe, or molted into a sewer spirit. The barrel remains, and someone's painted a face on it. It's frowning. You cross the crooked footbridge where Snipe used to hold court with his dented tin. There's a new boy there now, maybe 6, maybe 60. It's hard to tell. He's got a bucket and a look in his eyes that says he knows how this story ends. You consider tossing him a coin, but remember you traded your last one for a map that turned out to be a wrinkled menu from a long-dead pie shop. You nod instead. He nods back. The fog gets thinner the further you walk. You see buildings with real windows, shutters, doors that close all the way. Someone hangs out a fresh sheet, and you flinch like it's a trap. The air smells like yeast and wood smoke, and something dangerously close to optimism. And still, no one stops you. But you feel it, like a hand on your collarbone that never quite pushes, never quite releases. The city is watching, not with eyes, with drains, with bricks, with the rhythm of boots on cobblestones that pause just slightly when you pass. It knows. It always knows. Not in a grand, mythic way, in the way a sore knows when rain is coming, in the way a forgotten name still hums behind the teeth of someone who once loved you. You keep walking. Past a butcher shop with glass windows and no visible rats. Past a constable asleep on his feet, dreaming of regulations he'll never enforce. Past a woman in a bonnet selling something steaming from a cart that smells like cinnamon and dishonesty. The city softens at the edges here, grows less sharp, but never kind. You find a bench that isn't broken and sit like someone who belongs to a world where benches are for sitting, not sleeping. A man with a clean collar offers you a pamphlet about salvation. You thank him. Don't read it. Fold it into a paper dart and toss it to the wind. You watch the people. Their clothes are mostly intact, their limbs mostly attached, their faces mostly blank. You wonder if they've ever crawled, if they've ever eaten soup that blinked back, if their mirrors speak, if they've heard the lullaby of the crawlers and felt something ancient stir in their spine. You want to tell someone, not for sympathy, for verification. Did that all happen? Or did you hallucinate it in a fog-slick alley while chewing on boot leather and misplaced ambition? But you stay quiet, because you know the answer. Yes, and also still. Because behind you, the city is shifting, not chasing, not pleading, just adjusting. It makes room. Somewhere, under a broken cart, a new body lowers itself to the ground. Knees first, palms second. Somewhere, a voice says, bones or bottle caps, don't care. Which? Somewhere, the crawl begins again. You could turn back, show them what it looks like to stand, but you don't, because some lessons aren't transferable. Some roads only teach you their language when your elbows are bleeding and your shadow has forgotten how to walk. You sit until the sun pretends to rise, then you stand again and keep going. But behind you, the street remembers. Every scrape, every scream, every small, strange kindness shared over stolen bread and fireless nights. The city files it away like a ledger that no one audits. No names, just echoes. And now, another one has begun.